So this is what it's like to feel like Mr. Brian Furness. With the camera on, Hollywood, lights, computer. Yeah, easy street. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Rick with Diesel and Iron. Glad you guys are tuning in, joining us, watching us here on YouTube. For some of you that might not recognize who I am, if you go back to most of the blogs, Brian and I have been working together on the jobs, behind the scenes, on the scenes, where the camera may be. You might see me pop up once in a while and kind of get after him a little bit, or we have some communication, do some talking. Here I am. We're going to be on the camera a little bit more and more as things progress. We hammered out a lot of work, a lot of jobs. Things have grown to the point now where we're both going to be simultaneously on the camera, if not sitting side by side, one person after another. We don't know. We'll change it up. We'll see what you guys think, how it goes. But anyways, today, guys, we're going to get into talking about what is operating cost. Well, what is operating cost? The dollar makes everything turn in America, right? You go to the grocery store, you give $1. You used to be able to buy a Snickers bar, now it's $1.25, for example. There's a cost to do business. Same thing is the excavating realm or land clearing realm. We do a little bit of everything. We clear land, excavate. We do a lot of sewer, septics, storm, water main repair breaks. We just did a big infrastructure job. For a bottling facility, we upgraded all their loading docks. We had a bunch of moving parts. That's cost, right? So let's get into the cost. So a hand shovel these days, I don't know if you guys have been buying some of them or not, but used to be able to give them 15, 20 bucks. Now they're starting to reach about $44. That's cost. All this stuff goes into a job cost, right? You'd think you just spend a couple $1,000s here and you get some shovels, you get some rakes, you get some brooms, you're good to go. All that stuff kind of comes to play when you start breaking down your costs. And what we're going to do through this series, we're going to start talking about what is cost as a whole, and then how we'll also break it down. All right. So you also got your labor, 20 bucks an hour, pretty standard for entry level labor up here in Michigan anymore. On that labor, guys, cost, we have payroll. So anybody that's on payroll, you have payroll tax that's due. The employer has to pay a portion of it, and there's an amount that's withheld from the employee. The employer is responsible for paying both of them. Even though some of it's held out of the employee's check, the employer still pays for it. So that cost comes out of your operating costs for your business. Then you got workers' comp. Up here, I believe we're $15 every 100 up in Michigan here. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I can't read off right to you, and it's not really fair to do all that because every state's different. So every $100, guys, it costs me $15 every $100 I pay an employee. Okay, so let's just do quick math here. On a 10-hour day, a guy making $20 an hour, that's, you got it, it's $200. It's 30 bucks for workers' comp just for that employee for the day. I know a lot of you guys don't understand a lot of the back scenes of what operating cost is for a business. I hope this kind of breaks down being an employee, whether you're entry level or you've been doing it a long time, or maybe you're just a seasoned veteran. But, you know, there's a lot of cost. You got insurance, right? Are you running $1 million policy? I run $1 million policy with an umbrella. So I have an umbrella insurance on top of it, which is just extra protection. Those are cost related too. And then you got on that insurance, I have out of that, I got my liability, my umbrella, my comprehensive insurance, which is for my trucks, my trailers, my equipment, hand tools. And then you got to start figuring out overtime. You know, do we work 40 hours, 45 hours, 50 hours? Are we doing 4 10s? Are we doing 5 8s? Are we doing 6 12s? Those are all base related, and there's so much that goes into the operating costs in the industry that we are in, because you have X amount of days to work. Up here in Michigan, we make all our money in 8 months, believe it or not. We run into weather that's really wet at the beginning. We have the frozen through the winter, and then we have mud season in the fall. I know I did that backwards, but that's how I basically program my brain when I talk about the weather, because basically March is the start. We don't really get going till May, April, depending on the weather. Sometimes it snows here in April 15th, right? So April, May, but basically we go from April to November. So we're looking at about 8 months, really 7 months of it's dry. I always try to make all our money in 7 months. I always count on the 8th month, but you can't count on anything up here in Michigan after November 15th. So you start looking at, well, I take on X amount of jobs. How much effort and how much time has to be put into this? How many hours are the guys going to have to work? How much is it going to cost me in overtime? You know, when you start thinking about the cost and people go, oh, I'm making all this money working all these hours, right? So quick example, you work a 40-hour week, $20 an hour, right? You go, okay, hey, $20 an hour. I can't wait to start putting in my overtime. We all like overtime. Who doesn't like making money? On that overtime, that guy is making $30 an hour. Okay. $30 an hour from the business standpoint, you go back to your cost. You go back to your workman's comp, right? And you have to kind of budget how much you're paying everybody. Well, if he's making $30 an hour, you got 369, right? $90 in 3 hours. Quick math, we're just going to round that up to 100. Say he works 3.25 hours or whatever. That's $15 right there. So if we work a 10-hour day and he's on $30 an hour because he's on overtime now, how many dollars is it going to cost you? Workman's comp. $15 every 100. Do the math. Okay. That's where this all starts getting interesting. Then when we start talking about costs, we got our tools. We got our hand tools. We got our lasers. Lasers are only $3,500. You maybe have $3,500 in hand tools, right? You think, well, you know, just a little bit of diesel fuel and on we go. Well, I got a question for you. How much diesel fuel are you burning a day? How many gallons? From the pickup truck to the machine, what's your total cost for the day? Those are the questions that you have to start looking at and figuring out where you're making money, where it's costing you money. I could tell you my cost almost every day where I'm at on a job site down to, God, I would say probably the last $200 a day. Obviously, you got a burn rate of money. It really helps, guys. I get so many guys, they go out and they do a $10,000 job, for example, or $5,000 job, and they don't even know if they made money until the dust settles. That's not the right approach when you start looking at business. You have to know your costs. That tube of grease. How much does that tube of grease cost? Sorry. I think it's about $2 anymore. Well, I hope you're using a tube of grease a day on your equipment, right? Because if you don't, that cost for the repair is going to cost even more. As you guys can see, there's a lot of cost, and I'm not blowing this up, making a bunch of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of cost behind this industry. We go back to our insurance, right? We go back to our worker comp, our payroll. We start talking about payments on a truck. Did you buy a used one? Did you buy a new one? Did you buy the old jalopy for $3,500? There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, the guy who bought it for $3,500 is actually ahead of some of us that are sitting in behind debt. He doesn't have to worry about some of his overhead. So there's a little bit of risk reward. Now, the old truck kind of looks like you might just drive away when a homeowner gives you a check. They don't know if you're coming back. So that's not always the correct answer. You have to look the part, and we'll get into that down a different conversation, different kind of road. But now we start talking about our trailers, right? Up here in Michigan, we pay a permanent trailer fee for the trailers. We used to pay for the little tabs on the license plates. They went away with that. So they get you right off the bat with the sales tax, right? That's actually not too bad for us up here. I kind of like that because now my trailer, all I have to worry about is having insurance on it. The plate's good. It's kind of surprising. Some of you guys that don't even have commercial plates on your truck, you should have some on your truck. Anything in business, that's a cost, which this kind of goes back to having your insurance and where the cost comes into. If you're pulling equipment around, you need to have a commercial plate. The weighted plates here in Michigan, and I'm just speaking for Michigan, I'm not speaking across the whole U.S., guys. So those weighted plates, for example, are $1,000 to be able to pull a skid steer around. We will get into talking about business and personal life and how to keep the two separate. There's a big difference up here if you're starting to mix personal pickup trucks with commercial trucks. It will get you in trouble up here. Like I said, that'll be another conversation. Believe it or not, though, our semis up here on the road, one semi, we haul, 165,000 on the one semi truck, then the other one's 115,000. I believe the one plate is like $2,800 for the year. Then the other one's like almost $4,000. Then you got the insurance. How much does that insurance cost for those trucks? 2 gravel haulers on the road up here in Michigan, I believe, is about $15,000, $10,000 to $15,000. Man, I didn't even think about that. Spend a minute. That's what the cost is. Then on everything, guys, you start talking about your pickup trucks. You look at your equipment, your tracks, oil changes, maintenance, downtime's even a cost. How much does it cost you when you're not out there making money, right? What's it cost for an oil change? What's it cost to run your machine per hour? For a skid steer, for example, is like $25 an hour. We'll get into how I come up with some of these numbers that work for me so I know my cost. But what's it cost you? New machines, old machines, there's a lot of different things that come into play. And then obviously, guys, let's be honest. If you're the owner and you're wrenching, there's a cost for you to be wrenching. Now, I know we could all say it's free because my time is free. I'm not billing myself. But at some point, is that where you make all your money? I know it saves money. And I do some of my own wrenching. But at the end of the day, I have one mechanic that comes to our shop. He's mobile. I call him, he comes and fixes it because downtime costs me more money than myself actually trying to save and wrench. I understand, we'll get there. What's it cost for you guys to keep your doors open? Are you working out of your house? Nothing wrong with that. I started out working at my house, and we had 4 acres, my wife and I had my business right outside the door. It wasn't ideal, but we made it work, right? 4 acres, a lot of land. Semis were there, the employees were there every day. I was only paying a payment, right, on my house. Well, that house kind of starts coming into business/personal, so you got to rent some land to your business, right? And again, we'll get there. Keep your business and personal separate, but there's still a cost, right? You got to have fuel tanks. You got to be able to call. You got to be able to build credit, and that's another good conversation that we'll get into, guys. You have to be able to build credit, right? So you're not constantly robbing your bank account to front the money. There's a cost in doing business. Well, in this industry, we put up a lot of money. We burn a lot of fuel. We do all the maintenance. We all do the labor. And then you get paid after you spend X amount of money to get the job. So what does it cost? And then if you got a shop, for example, maybe you got a mechanic or 2. Maybe you have a lawn company that comes out and mows it. That's nothing wrong with that. How much does it cost you for those employees to walk around, weed whip, use your facility, keep the lights on, have insurance on that building? You got heat, you got air, tools. A lot of people supply tools. A lot of mechanics come with their own tools. Then we start talking about, well, health insurance, right? Everybody's got to have health insurance, some form these days. Some guys go without. If you're in business to attract employees, it costs you money because you got to have health insurance. How much does it cost you? A lot of this stuff is behind the scenes that we kind of take for granted, that a lot of us don't understand, that the business owner is just sitting there counting his money every day. He's just sitting there just counting it, right? That's not the case. You got anybody kind of like my role that I've been in a business is, you want to talk about the biggest educational decisions and going to college, there's nothing like getting an education on running a business. You learn your costs real quick. You find out hidden fees real quick. Liquid damages on a job. Those are costs. We just got off a job 2 days ago, to be honest with you, where there could have been some liquid damages if you didn't meet the deadlines. So the other cost I got to ask you, what's it cost you? Now take this personally for all of us in the industry, male, female, new and old. What's this industry cost you? It costs you time. It costs you sacrifice. Your friends, your family. You won't be there for your child on some sporting events. You will miss certain events. There's a cost to that, right? Sometimes you're selling your soul for how much for $1. Sometimes we all have to understand how much our cost is. Even as an employee, after taxes, how much is it going to cost me to buy my time back that you can never get back every day for your son or daughter's game, your wife, your family, one of your loved ones, right? That's also a cost. In business, guys, we have a mobilization. I have to get this pen from point A to point B. There's a cost. Time I put this truck on there, whether this thing's carrying employees, equipment, how much does it cost you? Go from here to here. Are you driving 5 miles? Are you driving an hour? Are you doing 60 miles? Is that 120 miles? What's the cost? How much does it cost you? Are you paying the guys to and from the job one way? Do you expect them to show up to the job? Every time you ship the crew out, how much does that cost? I need to know fuel. I need to know maintenance. I need to know hourly cost. What's it cost you? And I'll help you guys start kind of breaking this down to understand where the burn rate and everything is. Now, when you roll up to a job, you think it's ready to go. The boss man did a good job. Hey, there's a material cost, right? How much does your pipe cost? How much does your sand cost? Did you order enough? Did you order too much? Because if you order too much, well, now you got to pay for it. If you're wasting material, you got to pay for it. If you're smearing some topsoil around that washed stone, well, there's a waste, right? How much does it cost you? I also look at the production on labor, right? A good crew will make you a lot of money. A bad crew doesn't make you very much money. How much does it cost you? Again, we're talking about operating costs, right? It all comes down to motivation. It comes down to keeping your employees busy. It comes down to keeping 15 different things juggled. And then here in Michigan, we have 8 months. So we kind of just do this balancing act. I typically work 6 to 7 days a week. I try to take off a couple weekends. It doesn't happen very much up here because of our seasonal months. Now we're going to talk about seasonal and non-seasonal work. We lay a lot of people off up here around November 20th, December 15th, right in there, depending on the weather. Sometimes we work a little later and the jobs just keep coming in. So that prolongs the guys from getting unemployment. So there's a cost. There's an employment cost for unemployment. You have to pay unemployment tax, right? I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but I believe it's something like 9% to X amount of dollars up here in Michigan. So there's a lot of unforeseen cost in this industry. It gets easier. It gets a lot easier the longer you're established, right? Now we're going to talk about a little bit of advertising. How much does Google cost you? Facebook. Man, I already thought about that, right? If you're looking for employees and you're running an ad or you're sponsoring a post on, Instagram and Facebook, and you're trying to get out there and try to get the outreach, there's a cost behind it all. You could do a pay subscription. You could just do radio. You could do billboards. There's so much avenue, right? And then there's also a cost if you don't advertise. If you don't keep yourself irrelevant, like a website, and you got a guy managing that, and you got all this advertising running, if you're not pumping money and reinvesting your profit back into your business, now I'm not saying you got to reinvest it all, but you need to reinvest money back into your business. There's a cost, okay? If you don't keep yourself irrelevant for the public, people forget about you. We call it a cost of just doing business, right? So if you're not keeping the money, you're not keeping things rolling, you're just buying yachts and big old trucks, and you are one of those guys that just count money, your business is going to have a hard time succeeding, especially kind of in the recession and the down times, because people forget about you. So you got to have that marketing running. So there's a lot of things, guys, that kind of get going behind the scenes. We're going to dive into it. We're going to start getting into some formulas. We're going to kind of get down to maintenance. We're going to get down to good employees, bad employees, what the cost is on it all. Because here's the other truth about cost. I don't need a bunch of high dollar laborers every day roaming my job. A good labor up here in Michigan, guys, can make right around $27 an hour. Okay. I don't need a bunch of $27 an hour guys per job all over the place. I might need 2 or 3. Then I might need a couple $15 to $20 an hour laborers. You don't need premium. You just need enough to get the job done. And you can't have just a C team or an A team. You got to kind of find the happy medium mix, right? We do need some shovel holders in the industry and some ditch diggers. And then we do need some leaders. And there's a price point on where your education is and your value, right? Whether you're on the employee side or the employer side, there's a cost. And it's honestly not, I'm not just talking about business and business owners, guys. This is the industry that you're in. You need to know your value, your cost, your worth. Well, that, guys, I hope you enjoyed our little brief down and dirty about some operating costs. We're going to dive down deep into this rabbit hole. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you got any questions, got any concerns, leave some messages in the chats if you'd like to add to it. I'm sure there's some points that we do miss. Keep them brief. Let's dive into this. Let's have some fun. Thanks, guys.